I'm back on a popular topic because the comments keep on coming in. In this video, I'm going to continue exploring what you can do to get a very light bicycle that's going to beat the Brompton T-line in more ways than one. Obviously, anything measuring up to this level of lightness would have to be in the ultralight category or very close. I would say any bike up to 25 pounds would be a lightweight bicycle. Anything at or below 20 pounds could be characterized as an ultralight or a very light bicycle. And anything at or below 14 pounds would be a hyper light, because those are bikes of extreme lightness, and I will say more about that as we go along. Here you can see what Brompton gives you. The price at this point is pretty much around $6K for a folding bike that has a full gear set. Officially speaking, it weighs about 18 pounds. I am endorsing the steel frame on this channel. That's the one I own myself. I make no secret of the fact that I do not like this whole titanium frame. I think the lightness of it is cool. I have no problem with that. The problem is the looks of it is no longer the classic look. It no longer has that Lego-like interchangeability which the old bike with the titanium extremities used to have, that you could go back and forth between the steel frame and the titanium, and you could attach anything to it. You could use the same headset, whatnot. As you see, you can see everything is custom. It's a different kind of a hinge, different kind of a headset. The whole bike is like that. I'm not crazy about this very modernist fork attached to pretty much the old design, which has been uglified for the frame because it's now fat. It's just not a very attractive looking frame. This is where you see it. I'm not too crazy about the carbon inserts at all. The wheel has not become much better, not that much lighter either. It's just like an aluminum wheel. So if you want to really trick it out with really cool wheels, you're gonna be minimum at $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 if you want to turn it into a really cool bike, and I think that's just way too expensive. So we cannot discuss competition to the titanium frame without talking about the Hummingbird. A tragedy has happened to this young brand. Most people don't know what the Hummingbird is, but the bike has been sold under that label for a number of years now, and I thought that Hummingbird was a great name for it, because Hummingbird is just like the birdie. It's kind of a bird, and hummingbirds are able to float in the air in a marvelous way, so it gives you that kind of intuition that this is something very light. It's just almost like floats in the air by itself. Of course, that's not the case. It has a weight. But in any case, somebody bought this brand and they stuck a new label on it. Now they are calling it ProDrive, and it's an ugly label, and it does not follow the curve of the frame, so it's actually quite ugly. I'm really not crazy about what they have done here. This is really awful. And I'm not crazy about this drop down either. We can't see everything that they have, but you can sort of see the prices. If you go for the single speed, this is in British pounds, so in US you're talking 4,500, 5,000 to start with, and it has a multi-speed. Now, just looking at it right off the bat, as you open the page, you can see that you can get aerodynamic carbon wheels, absolutely beautifully made stock as part of your $5,000 as you buy this bike. You can get a belt drive. This is way ahead of anything that Brompton offers. And then you look at the frame. Let's see if we can take a closer look at the frame. Notice that the frame number one does not break, unlike with the Brompton. Unlike with this thing, it still has the hinge here, and of course it has the other two, which the Hummingbird slash ProDrive also has. It does fold in the rear, and it does have another folding mechanism here, but the frame itself has no hinges in it. Boy, this logo has to be removed. If I buy this bike, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this ugly logo, which does not harmonize with the rest of the frame. What a stupid idea. So there is no, it's a single piece top tube, and it's not a tube. It's a monocoque object. It's actually a plant fiber component, I would say. It's not the whole frame, but it is most of it. They have brought the price down. I think originally the whole thing was made out of carbon fiber. That's not the case anymore. And because of its thickness and this gradual thickening toward where it receives most of the pressure, twisting or up and down rocking motions are not going to have much of any effect on this frame. The only bending or vibration that could occur would be a kind of left-right vibration, but that's not the pressure you are facing when you're riding. When you're riding, primarily you have up and down pressures and twisting motion. Twisting because you pedal pushing the left and then the right, and up and down because you are hitting the bumps as you ride. And the faster you ride, the more bumps you hit. It got an award for design, and it totally deserves that award. Absolutely gorgeous bike. You cannot compare this to this rather awkward, sort of half yesterday, half modernist design. They really should have thought this over. Are we going to go with yesterday's design, or are we going to do something completely different? But this is not all the advantages you are getting with this ProDrive. The wheel diameter is the same, but the width here is not. It's wider than the Brompton's ultra narrow triangle. Because of this triangle, you really cannot easily put on much of anything. Whereas if you have a standard width, then you can get a number of things. So for example, the multi-speed, you don't even have to tune it. It comes with a Shimano hub out of the box. And of course, a lot of people would want that. Who would not want a folding bike with a belt drive and a Shimano rear hub? I mean, this is an absolute winner. Check this out. It's much better than what Brompton offers you, and it's much more than 3 speeds. So you don't need that awkward arrangement of having an external and an internal gear system. So this bike is better in every way. The only inferiority that I do notice is that it does not seem to have any suspension even here. The Brompton has a little bit of a suspension, which is nice. I would prefer to have as much as I get with the Birdie or the Moulton, like front and rear suspension. But I understand for ultralights it's very difficult to do. If you want to have these kind of weights that the bike has, it's very difficult to do. Now, some people complain that maybe this ProDrive it does not fold as compact as the Brompton. In some sense, that's correct. The Brompton is still the winner as far as width and height is concerned after the fold. So it's a much wider fold. But if you looked at it from here, which I cannot show on a picture, you would find that it's not a trifold. It's a very narrow two-fold. So it's really, the rear wheel goes kind of under the frame, a little bit to the side. The front remains in place, and there is the steering column that folds down next to it. So it is a really, really narrow, it has a very narrow frontal profile if you fold it. And with this shape, you can turn it up like this, so that the rear of it moves up, and you can get it into any revolving door. It would be longer under your desk, but very narrow. So it should fit into most, it should fit into every revolving door, every elevator, and most desks as well. Certainly, if you are using it not so much for commuting, but for weekend hype or after work high performance racing and the like, then this is going to be enough of a fold. Now, as far as touring is concerned, this thing does not have a suspension, but it does come with a Shimano hub, which is really encouraging for touring. So the only thing I would do would be just to upgrade the seat post, this one, to a suspension seat post. You can see a detailed description of this in my book, and I've covered this topic in some of my videos as well. You can see pictures of my ride on the book cover and inside as well, and I described where I got, what I got, and all that. You can play the same game with this one. You may need an adapter depending upon how tall you are, but even if you have no suspension, there is an awful lot you can do to make it comfortable for a touring ride. So you get a lot more, a lot better components, even an electric. I'm not crazy about this electric thing. I have not discussed it. I'm just looking at the ultralight categories here, and this is their standard. It's not very expensive, single speed. So the minimum entry point is not very expensive for the bike, although it costs more than the cheapest of the Bromptons. I think it's a very neat fold. It's a gorgeous modern design. This is not a mixture of yesterday and tomorrow put together. This is tomorrow right now. A very easy and very quick fold. No frills to it. So that was one of your options. Another option would be to go to Moulton. Now this Moulton would be, the Moulton Speed would be a lot more expensive. You get a top-end drivetrain along with a steel frame that is very well made, and front and rear suspension, a very rigid space frame. The seat post is not supported by a space frame structure. There are some other bikes Moulton makes that does that, but they are a bit heavier. Nevertheless, the support you get in the front, that there is no movement, no vibration here, is absolutely spectacular. Also, this is very rigid. There is no movement here. Here you're going to get a little bit of vibration, unfortunately. Consider that the weight is under 9 kilograms, so this is going to be, it's going to come in just under 20 pounds, which, given that this is all steel, it's solid as a rock, has front and rear suspension, some really high quality, I believe it's a Campinolo group set, which is partly carbon fiber or ceramic or something like that, is remarkable. Unfortunately, this comes at a price. This is around 15,000 US, if not a little bit above. But then you don't need to tune this. You don't need to add anything. The only thing some people might want to add would be to put on mud guards. I'm not sure if mud guards make any sense for an ultralight, because people buy these things either because of racing or sports, or because they want their carrying to be really easy. Now notice that most of the Moultons are of separable frames. This is not a separable frame. You don't see the screw. It weighs less than 20 pounds. If you buy more of an average Moulton, like this one is going to be a bit heavier. It's going to be more like 22 pounds. But if carrying is an issue for you, then this one is separable. So you separate the 22-pound bikes, you're going to end up roughly with two 11, 12-pound pieces. You will have to carry them independently, but there's nothing to fold. There are no hinges. You just separate these two. It takes a few minutes. Like if you're a commuter every day, it's probably going to take 10 minutes out of your day, but it's going to be a very fancy 10 minutes. It's a gorgeous bike. I have seen this in real life a few times. Some people have bought this in New York. This price, unfortunately, is around 9,000, maybe 9,500. But you could opt for something like this, and it would be less than the Moulton Speed. It's the AM22. It only comes in this gorgeous metallic blue color. You know, if you want to buy the Brompton T-Line because it only weighs 17 pounds, and you have to carry it up steps or whatever, each half of this frame, especially if you take out the seat, will easily fit into any revolving door, any elevator, and it only weighs 11, 12 pounds each side. I mean, you can't complain about this. No other bike, either small wheel or full size, has this amazing option, this kind of separability without the folding and the joints and everything that comes with it. Now, previously, in a previous video, I did discuss what you could do if you were to build your own. I still stand by that. You could buy a standard steel frame Brompton, which I absolutely recommend on this channel. It's still a killer deal. It's still rock solid. It's made of steel. The hinge is rock solid. I've had mine for 7 years. Many people have had their steel frames for decades. Unless you really, really torture the bike, the frame should last a lifetime. And the entry point is very low. For less than $1,200, it's practically nothing, and you get everything. You get the headset, the bottom bracket, everything. And then I recommended that you go for something like a Vostok titanium set. This is not steel, this is titanium. The Vostok set is still circulating around the internet for about $1,300. All you need is search for it, but I'm putting links below, and I always do, so make sure to check my links. This triangle, first of all, is beautifully made. This is not an Asian machine-made $500 set that's going to bend under you if you weigh 250 pounds. This was made by a Russian craftsman, no longer active, unfortunately. I wonder if the war and all these trade barriers have something to do with this. But in any case, you can still get the set, and this is going to give you standard widths. So you can put in a roll-off, or I don't know why you would put a roll-off into a lightweight bike. You could put a Shimano or just like a very light group set with standard wheel hubs. Same thing in the front. So you have an enormous selection of wheels to choose from, not just the 349 that comes with the Brompton, but the standard 16-inch size, which is smaller than 349. You also have disc brake attachments if you want that. But again, for an ultralight, disc brakes are going to add weight. So you're going to add to the weight. Now, I did not discuss this in a previous video, but you could, in addition to upgrading the steel frame like this, like replacing the fork, replacing the triangle, you could also replace the steering column, even if it's a no-name titanium alternative, because this is not very risky. I discussed in a previous video that you could replace the top tube itself with the most important hinge that takes most of the pressure. I would rather not replace that, but you could replace the steering column for not a lot of money. This is not a lot of money. $600. And you get everything with this little hinge to it. It looks like a really good set. Obviously, this is a no-name company. There's probably no warranty. Nobody knows who these people are. They could disappear from the market overnight. I realize that. But you're not taking too much of a chance because the top tube remains the same. So this is all steel. You can expect 2 pounds off the weight by replacing these with a classy titanium setup, and maybe you can reduce another pound from here with replacing the steering column, and a lightweight wheel set, at least another pound, pound and a half should come off with that. And there are some really nice options we have discussed. Carbon fiber for about $1,000 or less. Now, the last bike I'm going to discuss that is going to blow the titanium, the T-line Brompton out of the water is a Hyperlight. This is not 17 or 18 pounds. It's not even 14 pounds. The weight is 11 pounds. The durability of the product is off the charts. This is the Zooter MG. Zooter makes many different kind of variations of the scooter. I have something similar to this. This is a magnesium deck, very advanced technology with the metal. I have an aluminum deck. They no longer make that one. I've actually measured my bike, and it weighs slightly under 11 pounds. It folds with a speed that you cannot get out of anything. It folds like in 5 seconds instantly. It stores under a seat on the bus effortlessly. Nobody ever said a word that I was nobody ever said a word about what I was doing. I have been everywhere, and also I use it for flying. It's never been a problem anywhere. You can fit it right in a suitcase. I wish I had it with me right now. Unfortunately, I forgot that I bought a smaller sized luggage. It holds a lot. It holds 50 pounds, but it's a little too short, so my suitor did not fit. Check this out. They have the dash, which is this one, the narrow deck. It's only 10 pounds. I would actually opt for some comfort. So I would get the magnesium deck, which is the lowest of the decks, because magnesium is a lightweight but sturdier material, so they don't need to have as much of a structure under it. So it is simply a lower deck. But the other frames are really nice. I mean, I started out with this. That was the original scooter that was purchased with my scooter, and I upgraded or swapped out the deck, and it was still called the Roma. It was back then $200, so it's now selling for almost twice as much. Unfortunately, the price of everything has increased, but consider that I am now traveling and the Brompton is in storage. There is some clicking coming out of either the hub or the bottom bracket, so I'm going to spend some money on upgrading and fixing the Brompton. With this one, in 2 decades, in 20 years of use, since 2005, this scooter is going to celebrate its 20th birthday in January of 25. I replaced the rear wheel once and the screw up here once. That's it. No oil, no chain, no drivetrain, no cogs, no nothing. You are the drivetrain. The simplicity of this is amazing. And then some people will say, oh, well, you can't ride 20 miles with this thing. Well, I average about 6 miles an hour, so you can if you want to. But I acknowledge that for commuting, it's not realistic to commute for 2 hours, and you would break a sweat and everything. But this one combines with public transit in a way that the Brompton never will. In fact, none of the other bikes offer this. You could have the separable frame Moulton, and then each weighs just 11 pounds. But if you get on the bus, you would have to carry each part. And that's the same with all the other bikes. So this one is 11 pounds, and I carry it all the time. This is the vehicle that I fall back onto when all else fails. And I spent the last year in Poughkeepsie, New York, which is upstate. We had free buses going everywhere. So you could just fold this, you ride to the bus stop, which is like less than a mile, and then get on for free, and you can reach locations 20, 30 miles away from home without paying a penny, which is just an astonishing convenience. So I do recommend it. I do believe if you are on the market for something extremely unbelievably light, then you would want to look at this one. And maybe then you don't need the rest of it. But then if you get something like this, like a full-size or a full-on bicycle with a drivetrain and everything, you can use it for more than kick biking. You can go for a 50-mile, even a 100-mile ride over the weekend. And a lot of people buy these bikes for that. They want a commuter, they want to use it for shopping, kind of a Swiss Army knife situation. And so if you do need the bike, I'm putting links below, and check them out.
I'll be back.